So this is not going to be exhaustive either, but kind of like the topic, I guess. So that's part of why doing it. Again, it's not all exhaustive. But you have various, um, yeah, you have various views on this here. Um, Again, it's based off the Parsha Anak. Was Anak a person or was it a people? What was it specifically? So according to a rabbinic tradition, okay, such as Genesis, Rabbah, etc., the Anakim are of the same titanic race as the Rephaim, Nephilim, Gibborim, Zamzumim, and Emim. The name, as though containing the element Anak, which equals neck in Hebrew, is explained in the Midrash as indicating they wore neck chains heaped upon neck chains, or it was from the verb to press or to force, that they seized the solar disk, i.e. the sun, and cried, "Send us rain," or that they squeezed their heads into the sun, and so forth. Just a lot of fun things that the Midrash has about it. One of the most plain meanings of that is some would say that when the spies went into the land, they were so tall, it was if like their heads basically kind of, they say, pierced the sun. Basically, they stood so tall when they tried to look, they had to look up at them, and so much so like that they almost blocked the sun from their view. That's pretty tall. And so some implications, they just had really long necks and so on. But that's pretty big. If someone's standing in front of you and you can like barely see the sun around them, and the sun becomes a halo, and again you have implications of sun worship as well. Yeah, you'd feel like a grasshopper to them. Okay, and so that's the simple meaning, is that they were giants. And what is a giant? That's true as well. The position of the sun would factor. Yeah, yeah, and that distance as well. If they're just standing right up there, but by most implications, just the basic understanding of the sense is that they were tall, big, big people, and giants, and not specifically. Again, what is a giant? What is a Nephilim? Right, because it says that. And there's this notion that some even say in Judaism, there are some views, and there are many people, especially in the Messianic Hebrew roots movement and some forms of Christianity, that have picked up on this other strain of Jewish rationalist thought that says giants were just sons of the children of Seth. There's so many reasons why that just doesn't jive, why it doesn't really hold up. Why would the children of Seth be so tall? And so all short people are not children of Seth? Well, weren't the Israelites also descendants of Seth? So why were they short? Right. Yeah, I don't know. There's just lots of things that don't line up. So this comes from Yalkut Shimoni, which is a collection of Jewish thought, okay, different midrash, and they're organized according to the scriptures. It's a pretty massive collection. It says this. Okay, so this is before I get into what it says, this is what the Yalkut Shimoni is. It's an agadic compilation on the books of the Hebrew Bible from such older Haggadot as were accessible to him, the guy that wrote it. The author collected various interpretations and explanations of biblical passages and arranged these according to the sequence of those portions of the Bible in which they were referred. And on this segment of scripture, this is what he says. Or this is the scripture which he points. When the generation of the flood took to the worshipping of idols, and God was saddened, they arose two angels, Samkazai and Azael, and who said to him, Master of the universe, did we not say to you when you created the world, what is man that you make mention of him? And said God, the world, what shall become of it? And they said, Master of the universe, we would suffice for it. And God said, it is known and revealed to me that if you dwelled upon the earth, the evil inclination would dominate you, and you would be worse than the sons of man. And it continues, said they, allow us to dwell among the humans, and you shall see, we will sanctify your name. Said God, descend and dwell amongst them. Immediately they were corrupted. That's ancient Jewish commentary. So they say that Jewish people don't believe that that giants are angels, and you know that yes they do. Not all, and many take a rationalist approach, but yes, that's actually a Jewish concept. That's where it comes from. And Rashi even here says, we saw that there were Nephilim, and this comes from Numbers 13:33. We saw that there were Nephilim, the giants, descendants of the fallen ones. That's referring to the Anakim. The descendants of Shamkazai and Azael, who fell from the heavens in the generations of Enosh. Right? And so that's the generations of the flood. And so even Rashi here, who is by and large, for the most part, a very rationalist of the rationalist Jews, is even saying, hey, these Anakim are descendants of fallen angels. Because you have in there, you'll have people that say, oh, angels can't mate with humans. They're angelic beings. Well, apparently they can. You know, they say, oh, it's just not possible. Angels can't do that. Well, says who? If that were true, there's a lot of peculiarities within the scriptures, because according to Genesis, even when you have the encounter of the three angels and Abraham, they sit down and eat with him. Angels generally don't eat either, but apparently they can. Apparently here on the earth, angels can do things outside of their normal confines. I mean, angels at their core are just spirits or messengers, but clearly when they come down to earth, they're clothed to some degree with the material world, to be in the material world to some degree. So, I mean, you can argue this, but it's an accepted view, especially within the mystic side of Judaism. Now, specifically, these sons of Anak, now a lot of times people take that to mean that Anak was a specific person, and he may have, but that's really not the only way to take this. And in fact, it may be that this group here, the Anunnaki, the Anunnaki or Anakai, there's many other variations, are a group of deities in ancient Mesopotamian cultures, Sumeria, Akkadia, Assyria, and Babylonia, and descriptions of how many Anakite there were and their role they fulfilled are inconsistent, often contradictory. And the earliest Sumerian writings about them, which came from post-Akkadian period, the Anunnaki are the most powerful deities in the pantheon, descendants of An, the god of the heavens. And in many of these sources, these pagan sources, the Anunnaki or Anakai are the children of the god of the heavens who came down to the earth. Sounds a lot like Genesis chapter 6, okay? And corrupted. And so, I'll jump out of here real quick and I'll go to word search. And we have this reference here in 13:22. This reference to them, it says, and they ascended south, and they came to Hebron, where the Ammon and Sheshai and Talmai, these are three specific Anakim mentioned in Scripture by name, the children of Anak were. Now, see, people read this and they think, well, yeah, the children of Anak, right? So Anak must be their father, but this is really B'nai Anak, and again, it's potentially just a way of referencing the people. They could be called B'nai Nephilim, the children of the Nephilim, giants. I mean, you could just say it the same way. It doesn't necessarily mean Anak necessarily have to be a specific person, or he wasn't just a specific Anak there. So a lot of times, again, in Numbers 13:33. Oh yeah, I forget that doesn't work very well. And the giants, we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which come of the giants, which were in our sight, right? In their sight. So it's saying that that the sons of Anak are Nephilim. They're from Min. Min is, or the Hebrew letter Men, or when you combine it with the letter Nun, the Min. It's just like it's just a word modifier, right? Min Nephilim, right? From, meaning from the Nephilim. So again here, it again says they're the giants, the B'nai Anakim, right? So Anak could have been just a Nephilim. It's possible. Regardless, I mean, at any rate, they are Nephilim. They are giants. That's what the B'nai Anakim are. They are without question giants and descendants of fallen angels and men, just like Goliath. It says in the flood, people say, weren't they all destroyed in the flood? No, it says in those days and later this happened. So it happened later at other times too. And in many Jewish sources, they imply that those Anakim that died in the flood, or any Anakim that died thereafter, is actually the source of where evil spirits come from, and so forth. Now, again, there's some that dispute that, mostly outside of Jewish sources, and say, well, no, the evil spirits are fallen angels. Well, they could be, they might not be. If you look throughout the New Testament, it never says exactly what an evil spirit is. It never says it's a fallen angel. It never says what it is. It just says it's an unclean spirit. It's an evil spirit, right? And so through many Jewish sources, they identify not just necessarily the book of Enoch, but they may be drawing on the same tradition or from that book or work, etc. They generally identify evil spirits specifically as separate from fallen angels, being the disembodied spirits of the giants destroyed in the flood. So it's a perspective. It's not necessarily right 100% necessarily according to Scripture, but the implications are certainly there, and it would make a lot of sense. Especially since by definition they're the children of fallen angels, then they would be identified as servants of Hasatan, etc. Why? Because they're the offspring. They're the children of them. They're like their father, right? Or their fathers, right? Those angels that left their heavenly abode and tried to corrupt God's plan here on the earth. And there's that.